Have you ever wondered what happens to your consciousness in those final moments before sleep claims you? Edgar Cayce, often called the sleeping prophet, revealed that these precious moments hold untapped power. The threshold between wakefulness and dreams is not merely a passing state, but a sacred doorway. Cayce insisted that what we say to ourselves before surrendering to sleep doesn't just echo in our minds, it resonates through our very spirit. These aren't just empty words of comfort. They are vibrations that ripple through the fabric of our being, setting the tone not just for our dreams, but for how our consciousness connects to realms beyond our physical understanding. What if I told you that Edgar Cayce discovered specific words, a spiritual formula of sorts, that when spoken before sleep, creates a bridge between our conscious mind and the infinite wisdom of the universe? Tonight, we explore the profound insight that made the humble psychic from Kentucky whisper, "These words, when spoken before sleep, I'll feel them in my spirit." From a weathered trunk in a Virginia Beach attic, a collection of personal journals emerged, pages never intended for public eyes. Among the yellowed papers and faded ink, Edgar Cayce's private spiritual practices have finally come to light. These aren't the famous readings that made him renowned across America. These are his intimate conversations with himself, with the universe, and with the divine. Tonight, we share the manuscript that reveals what Cayce practiced in the sacred solitude of his bedroom, away from the seeking crowds and desperate patients. July 15th, 1923. I have observed a pattern in my readings that becomes increasingly clear. The words we speak before surrendering to sleep act as messengers, traveling through layers of consciousness while the physical body rests. These messengers don't disappear into nothingness. They ripple through what I can only describe as the spiritual body, creating impressions that remain long after waking. I must study this phenomenon more carefully. August 3rd, 1923. Tonight I tried a simple experiment. Before entering the sleep state, I repeated the words, "Peace and healing surround me." Upon waking, I noticed a tangible difference in my physical and mental state. The usual morning stiffness in my spine was noticeably reduced. Is this merely suggestion or something deeper? My intuition tells me there's a mechanism at work here that science has yet to comprehend. August 17th, 1923. I'm becoming convinced that the boundary between wakefulness and sleep is thinner than most realize. It is a shoreline where the conscious mind meets the vast ocean of universal consciousness. The words spoken at this threshold don't merely fade, they transform. They cease being merely sounds or thoughts and become energy patterns that our spiritual body absorbs and carries. I've begun developing a specific practice around this discovery. September 1st, 1923. For 2 weeks now, I've been experimenting with different phrases before sleep. The results are consistent. Words of gratitude, forgiveness, and healing intention produce measurable changes in my physical and mental state upon waking. It's as if these words, spoken at the threshold of sleep, are seeds planted in fertile soil, growing while we dream. But there's something else happening, something I struggle to articulate even in these private pages. September 15th, 1923. I must attempt to describe what happens when I speak certain words before sleep. It's as though my spiritual body, what some might call the soul or the energy body, receives these words differently than my waking mind does. The sensation is similar to what happens during a reading, but more intimate, more personal. The words don't just enter my mind, they permeate my entire being. I feel them resonating in what I can only describe as my spirit. The most effective phrases I've discovered combine 3 elements: acknowledgement of divine presence, expression of gratitude, and intention for the sleeping hours. When these 3 elements align, something remarkable happens. The words seem to dissolve into pure vibration, creating a harmonic resonance within the spiritual body that continues throughout the sleep state. October 10th, 1923. Last night I had a profound experience. As I spoke my pre-sleep words, I suddenly became aware of my spiritual body as distinctly as I am aware of my physical one. I could feel the words I spoke transforming into light, not metaphorical light, but actual luminous energy moving through my being. These weren't hallucinations at the edge of sleep, but a clear perception from that part of me that sees during the readings. I've come to understand that what we call sleep is actually a complex process of consciousness transformation. The physical body rests, but aspects of our awareness expand. The words we speak at this juncture are particularly powerful because they're received by both our waking mind and our spiritual consciousness simultaneously. They become a bridge between worlds. November 5th, 1923. I've refined my practice to a specific sequence of words that produces the most profound effect. Before sharing these with others, I tested them for 30 consecutive nights. The phrase is deceptively simple, yet its impact is unmistakable. The key lies not just in the words themselves, but in the consciousness behind them, the genuine feeling that accompanies them. When I speak these words with authentic intention, I feel them radiating through what mystics have called the subtle body. There's a sensation of expansion, as if my consciousness is no longer confined to the physical form, but extends outward in all directions. Yet simultaneously, there's a profound sense of connection to something greater, as if invisible threads of light link my being to a vast cosmic network. December 18th, 1923. I've begun quietly sharing this practice with a few trusted individuals who come for readings. The results are remarkable. Those who practice it consistently report not only improved sleep quality, but profound shifts in their waking consciousness as well. Many describe spontaneous healing of minor ailments, increased intuitive awareness, and a greater sense of purpose upon waking. What fascinates me is how this simple practice affects different people in uniquely personal ways. For some, it unlocks creative insights. For others, it brings emotional healing or spiritual awakening. It's as if the words act as a key, but the door it opens is different for each soul, according to what they most need in their journey. January 3rd, 1924. I must address the skeptics, even if only in these private pages. Is this merely the power of suggestion? Perhaps partly. But that explanation falls short of accounting for the consistent patterns I observe across diverse individuals. There is something happening at the intersection of consciousness, language, and spiritual energy that deserves serious study. The mechanistic view of human beings as merely complex biological machines cannot explain the transformations I witness daily. Words spoken before sleep somehow bypass the analytical mind and reach deeper layers of our being. They speak directly to what some traditions call the subconscious, but which I've come to recognize as our connection to universal consciousness. February 27, 1924. I've observed that the most powerful pre-sleep practice incorporates awareness of the heart center. When individuals direct their attention to the middle of their chest while speaking their nighttime words, the effect intensifies dramatically. It's as if the heart serves as an amplifier, broadcasting these intentions throughout the subtle energy system and into the spiritual realms we access during sleep. This shouldn't surprise us. Ancient traditions across cultures have recognized the heart as more than a physical pump. It is a spiritual center of profound importance. Modern science now confirms the heart generates an electromagnetic field far stronger than the brain's. Perhaps this field serves as the medium through which our pre-sleep words propagate through our being and beyond. April 15th, 1924. A recurring theme in my readings has been the concept of building the spiritual body during earthly life. I now understand that our pre-sleep practice contributes significantly to this development. Each night, as we speak words of higher vibration at the threshold of sleep, we strengthen those aspects of our spiritual anatomy that transcend physical existence. This explains why consistent practice yields increasingly profound results over time. We are not merely establishing a psychological habit, we are developing spiritual faculties that grow with use, much as physical muscles respond to regular exercise. The difference is that these spiritual muscles continue their development even after physical death. June 8, 1924. I must record a remarkable pattern I've noticed. Those who practice the pre-sleep words with greatest sincerity begin to experience what can only be described as conscious sleep. They report awareness during sleep states that ordinary dreamers cannot access, realms where guidance, healing, and learning continue while the physical body rests. This aligns with ancient teachings about dream yoga and similar practices. What's fascinating is that these individuals aren't attempting to achieve such states directly. They emerge naturally as a consequence of the pre-sleep practice. It's as if the words spoken before sleep clear a path that the consciousness naturally follows into these expanded states. July 30th, 1924. The phrase I've found most effective in my own practice, and for those I counsel, combines universal spiritual principles in a way that transcends any single religious tradition. It acknowledges divine presence, expresses gratitude, sets intention for healing, and affirms connection to all life. When spoken with genuine feeling at the threshold of sleep, these words create a vibrational template that the spiritual body carries into the sleep state. I hesitate to record the exact words here, as they must be felt rather than merely repeated. The power lies not in the formula, but in the consciousness behind it. Yet for those who seek a starting point, I offer this. Divine presence within and around me, I am grateful for this day of life. As I enter sleep, may healing flow through every cell of my being. May my dreams connect me to wisdom, and may I awaken renewed in body, mind, and spirit. I am one with all life, now and always. September 12th, 1924. An important discovery. The pre-sleep practice becomes exponentially more powerful when combined with conscious breathing. 3 slow, deep breaths before speaking the words prepare the entire system, physical, mental, and spiritual, to receive the vibration of the words more completely. It's as if the breath clears static from the communication lines between our various levels of being. This connection between breath and spirit appears in virtually every spiritual tradition. The Hebrew ruach, the Sanskrit prana, the Greek pneuma, all connect breath to life force or spirit. Our pre-sleep practice taps into this ancient understanding, using breath as the carrier wave for the transformative power of conscious intention. October 28th, 1924. I must emphasize that this practice, while simple in execution, rests upon a complex spiritual mechanism. The words spoken before sleep interact with what my readings call the soul forces, those energetic patterns that constitute our spiritual anatomy. These forces respond to vibration, reorganizing themselves according to the frequency of our conscious intention. Higher vibrations, those of love, gratitude, compassion, and peace, strengthen and harmonize the soul forces. Lower vibrations, fear, resentment, selfishness, create distortion and disharmony. The remarkable thing about the sleep threshold is how receptive these soul forces become at precisely this juncture, absorbing and amplifying whatever vibration we consciously generate. December 3rd, 1924. A profound realization came during this morning's meditation. The pre-sleep practice isn't merely beneficial for the individual. It creates ripples in the collective consciousness. When even one person enters the sleep state carrying vibrations of peace and healing, it affects the spiritual atmosphere we all share. Multiply this by thousands practicing similar intentions, and the potential for planetary healing becomes evident. This may explain why so many spiritual traditions emphasize evening prayers or meditations. Perhaps our ancestors intuitively understood what my readings have confirmed. The threshold of sleep is a powerful time for spiritual work that extends beyond personal benefit to touch the very fabric of our shared reality. January 17th, 1925. I've observed a fascinating phenomenon among those who maintain the pre-sleep practice consistently. Over time, the words themselves become almost secondary to the state of consciousness they evoke. Long-term practitioners can eventually enter the same receptive, expanded awareness simply by recalling the feeling associated with their practice. The words have done their work of carving a channel between everyday awareness and spiritual consciousness. This progression mirrors what mystics have described throughout history, the gradual internalization of spiritual practice until it becomes less an activity and more a continuous state of being. The pre-sleep words serve as training wheels that eventually give way to direct spiritual perception. March 5th, 1925. Must record an insight about resistance. Some individuals report difficulty maintaining the pre-sleep practice despite good intentions. My readings suggest this resistance often stems from subconscious fear, not of the practice itself, but of the expanded awareness it eventually brings. We are accustomed to identifying exclusively with our physical existence and analytical mind. Touching the greater reality of our spiritual nature can be disorienting, even frightening at first. The key to overcoming this resistance lies in gentleness and persistence. Begin with simple gratitude if more elaborate practices feel overwhelming. The spiritual body responds to sincerity more than sophistication. A heartfelt thank you at the threshold of sleep can open doors that elaborate rituals might not, especially when resistance is present. April 27th, 1925. I must address the connection between the pre-sleep practice and healing. My readings consistently emphasize that physical healing originates in the spiritual and mental bodies before manifesting in the physical. The words we speak before sleep direct healing energy to wherever it's needed most, often addressing imbalances we aren't consciously aware of. This explains why many practitioners report unexpected improvements in chronic conditions. The spiritual body, guided by higher wisdom, directs the healing vibrations established by our pre-sleep words to the root causes of disharmony, rather than merely addressing symptoms as our conscious mind might. These healing effects compound over time. What begins as subtle energy shifts eventually manifests as measurable physical changes. The body's innate intelligence, freed from interference by fear, tension, and limiting beliefs, naturally moves toward wholeness when given proper spiritual direction. What has become clear through decades of observation is the profound truth underlying Cayce's discoveries about pre-sleep consciousness. The boundary between waking and sleeping isn't merely a psychological transition, but a spiritually significant threshold. What we carry across this threshold, the vibrations we generate through our final thoughts, words, and feelings before sleep, shapes not only our dream experiences, but continues to affect our spiritual development in ways that extend beyond this lifetime. When Cayce spoke of feeling certain words in his spirit, he wasn't being poetic. He was describing a literal perception available to anyone who develops sufficient spiritual sensitivity. The words we speak before sleep don't disappear into unconsciousness. They are absorbed by what ancient traditions called the subtle body, the energy template that informs our physical existence and continues beyond it. This understanding transforms sleep from mere physical rest into a spiritual opportunity of immense proportions. Each night offers us 7 to 8 hours during which our consciousness can receive healing, guidance, and spiritual nourishment if we prepare properly at the threshold. The pre-sleep practice Cayce developed isn't merely a psychological technique for better dreams. It's a doorway to expanded states of being that are our spiritual birthright. Modern society's dismissal of sleep's spiritual significance may be one of our greatest collective blind spots. We spend a third of our lives in sleep states, yet give little thought to how we might consciously engage with this significant portion of our existence. Cayce's work offers us a practical methodology for reclaiming this lost third of our spiritual lives. Perhaps most remarkable is how this practice bridges the gap between everyday concerns and cosmic awareness. The same pre-sleep words that might help someone overcome insomnia or process emotional difficulties also open doorways to transcendent experiences of universal consciousness. The practice meets each person exactly where they are in their journey, addressing immediate needs while simultaneously offering pathways to greater awakening. This is the genius of Cayce's approach. It makes spiritual development practical and accessible without diluting its profound potential. The pre-sleep practice doesn't require special abilities, extensive training, or radical lifestyle changes. It asks only for sincerity, consistency, and openness to experiencing reality beyond the limits of ordinary perception. As we conclude this exploration of Edgar Cayce's revealed manuscript, let us consider the invitation it extends to each of us. Tonight, as you approach the threshold of sleep, you might choose to experiment with this ancient yet timeless practice. Speak words of gratitude, healing, and connection with genuine feeling. Then notice, not with expectation or analysis, but with gentle awareness, how these words resonate within your being. You may begin to understand what Cayce meant when he said, "These words before sleep, I'll feel in my spirit." For ultimately, this isn't about following Cayce's formula or adopting his beliefs. It's about awakening to your own direct experience of the spiritual reality that underlies our physical existence. The pre-sleep practice offers a doorway, but only you can walk through it. The words are tools, but the consciousness behind them is what transforms mere sounds into spiritual vibrations that echo through the chambers of being. In that quiet moment between wakefulness and dreams, you stand at a powerful threshold. What will you carry across it tonight? Thank you for journeying with us through this remarkable manuscript. If these insights have resonated with you, please take a moment to like this video and share your experiences in the comments below. Your engagement helps these timeless teachings reach others who might benefit from them. Every comment is read and deeply appreciated, as they help us understand how these ancient wisdom practices translate into modern lives. If you'd like to continue exploring the spiritual teachings and practices of Edgar Cayce, be sure to subscribe to our channel for weekly insights from the sleeping prophet's vast legacy of work. Remember, as Cayce himself might say, what you think and speak before sleep shapes not just your dreams, but your very spirit.